Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, October 10th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here, December corn down a quarter at 420 and 3/4. November soybeans were down 3 at 1017 and a quarter. And December Chicago wheat was up 4 at 603. This morning's USD weekly export sales announcements were solid. Corn came back 1.2 million. Upper end of the estimates, we're looking for 1.7. So a good solid week for corn. Soybeans, same numbers, 1,264,300. So a good solid. All right, are we back?
I'm back.
All right. Technical difficulties there. We apologize. Not sure where I lost you guys. Long story short, weekly export sales were solid for corn and beans. Wheat was in line with estimates, and meal sales were at the bottom end of the estimates, 165,700. This morning's CPI report was out, hotter than expected. Consumer prices rose 0.2% in September. They were looking for a number closer to 0.1%. And the annual rate increased 2.4%, up to 2.4%. They were looking for 2.3%. We are through 7 of 23 days in the harvest price discovery period for crop insurance. Corn's sitting right about 426. Soybeans are at 1039. Good morning, guys. I hope everybody's doing well. Dustin, I know we were talking before the show, some interesting trade just in the dollar index, which could potentially be, trickling in and affecting some of our price movement here. I know we got the USDA report out tomorrow. So maybe just a few thoughts there this morning, and then we'll throw it around the room.
Yeah, so, dollar denomination is still a big factor for where flat price goes. And we have been just seeing a really good, sharp increase off of the lows here from a couple weeks ago. So, just during the month of October, we've shot up from sub 100, basically end of September, to last night, or early this morning, rather, we traded up to as high as 102.93. So almost a 3% increase there during the month of October on the index. That's just probably your best measure against all other major currencies, the euro, the yen, the Canadian dollar. The Brazilian real has also been falling against that dollar strengthening. So the real versus dollar. And that's definitely a tail or a headwind for soybean pricing in particular. We compete more heavily on exports with Brazil there. So we want to keep that in mind. Things like gold have started to take a step back. This whole, Hong Kong exchange sell-off as well, is another thing that I think is spooking the market a little bit. Maybe pulling a lot of people back out of their longs. Hedge funds have been liquidating their short positions, so it's not like they really have, a position that keeps them from adding. They could technically turn around and start getting short again and actually have a fairly big impact on the market. So if we are right now, we're right at the 100-day, we seem to be finding some resistance in the dollar index at the 100 and 200-day moving averages. If we start to come back down, that's definitely a positive thing for price action. But if we keep settling above these major moving averages and there's a bit of a changing of the trend there, that's just a tailwind we have to keep in mind as we go the later half of harvest. So I would definitely keep on your radar where the dollar index is as it impacts flat price.
That's good stuff. Ben, what's on your mind this morning?
Jobless claims came out. They were pretty bad. So I think that you look at that and the bigger picture of macros and keep an eye on that. If maybe there will be a little bit of if it's mild, it's probably fairly supportive to commodities if money wants to move around. And if it's not mild, as things move forward, it's probably bearish everything. So that's big picture. This week we're in the 4th day of the Goldman roll in soybeans today. Tomorrow is the last day. I feel like it's a little bit minimized just because we have such a big report tomorrow. We've really been range bound here, really tight ranges in corn, soybeans trading in 11 to 27, making a series of lower highs. Double bottom yesterday down at 11.5. I would think that we poke below that at some point and see what's there. That's right at the 50-day moving average. And this has been a rally that after the pullback in corn has sustained itself, and I think it makes sense to look at, again, what we talked about before, cheap corn options if you need some protection. So tomorrow is a big day.
Yeah, for sure. Jason, maybe a few parting shots on the grain side.
Yeah, no, I agree with kind of what Ben said and Dustin said. Right, we had a nice run up. It's funny how everything kind of lines up, right? We talked a lot about going to first notice day at the end of September. We bounced really well out of that, and then we had some additional fuel, right, with the Chinese stimulus. You had a weak U.S. currency, compared to other currencies. So all these things kind of, added to the run up, and it lost a lot of steam when some of these things came off, right? To Ben's point, that whole trade in the Chinese stock market coming off, and the currencies bouncing real hard at the last week or so. Fits right in line with a lot of the moving averages in the grains. We hit some key levels that would trigger farmer selling. We've settled off from that, and we're back down to some supportive moving averages, right? Going right into could be a really important report tomorrow. So, yeah, nothing necessarily to add there, right? I'm guessing we'll have kind of a slow day today. People waiting to make the next move, depending on the numbers tomorrow. So,
yeah, this is going to be. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, we're kind of looking at corn going, it's holding up really well, and scratching our head a little bit. We're about to flip to full scale harvest in corn, and I think one of the couple of things that maybe are holding us up is we're planting wheat. We've got a fairly dry outlook. We need to get some moisture on newly planted wheat. I think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, that's going to be very important. It's dry in Russia and Ukraine. It's continued to be a problem. And I think they're in the same situation there for their winter crops. And then when you look at historic dryness over the summer for South America, I think the market really wants to see some follow-on rains other than just this round that's forecasted to come in soon, which confidence is growing in. So I do think that we're holding a little bit from some of those points around the world that need some, it would be ideal to get some good rains in those places, especially as wheat crops in Ukraine, Russia, and then in the US are going in the ground.
That's a good point. I think this weekend will be interesting. I mean, you're really, like you said, it's going to be wide open harvest weather for a good majority of the belt. Also, Saturday, you're supposed to get some guidance from China on this stimulus package, which will be interesting to see what the headlines come out there and how we react to that on Sunday, should they make any drastic type of announcement. So kind of an interesting weekend, and we'll have to keep our eyes open there. Ryland, they really came after fats and feeders yesterday. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it just seemed like a little bit of a setback, kind of understandably after this move. I mean, there really has been not much of a challenge here, just pretty much since September. So, you still made a new high for the move, but it just seems like the lack of cash action, maybe some of the beef sentiments are starting to change a little bit just on this last rally. But overall, pretty quiet cash market so far. It sounded like in Iowa, maybe a little 186.27 trade, very quietly. Otherwise, it seemed like most of the asking prices are still around 188, and I think that at least is kind of the expectation right now, kind of across the board. So we'll see. I think a lot of that is already kind of priced in. I think whether or not we trade outside of those levels, up or down, is really kind of going to determine the direction just kind of tomorrow and into next week. So we'll see how that shapes up. Beef prices back up to a new high. You had choice up to 308, and you're up $1 So overall, there's better sentiment for margins on the packer side of the market. But yeah, there's no question. We're starting to reach this kind of technical overbought level if you're looking at those kind of indicators. And we may see a couple setbacks here and there, but overall, the news is still really good. And generally on the supportive side. Plus, the managed money wants to stay long, and we really haven't seen any retest of any kind of near-term moving average, let alone longer-term moving averages. So just seems like there's not a lot of panic here just yet. Maybe if we see a big follow through to the downside, sure, we could see some liquidation or something change on the macro front. But aside from that, the trend has been your friend pretty much this whole time. Same thing with hogs, except hogs actually didn't make a new high for the move. They kind of just set back. It looks like, you had a little bit of a weakness in cutout print in some areas, but, by the afternoon, bellies were up 7. So carcass overall was up 39. So still pretty decent news here. It just kind of feels like the market's long and waiting for the other shoe to drop on the hog side of things.
Out forward LRPs for cattle. I know you've been running numbers against what you can buy options for and things like that. So probably a good time to start get in touch with you on getting those forward LRPs either looked at or locked in, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the LRPs, are a great tool right now, especially on these big rallies where like you're testing multi-month highs. We found that just there's a lot of different ways to skin this cat, and obviously like some of these LRPs with really long time frames are on the expensive side. So I think just, that's kind of it's definitely a one size kind of fits all approach, just some simple price coverage. It's definitely a no brainer with prices hanging up here. I think we've gotten a little bit disenfranchised at how high these prices really are and how they're kind of lingering in this level. So I think it's good to look to protect margin, but there's a lot of different strategies that can be executed to kind of protect or manage that risk out that far. It's just a matter of kind of wants, needs, margin protection, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a great idea to start looking at those things, getting quotes, figuring out your time frame, which I think is a little bit more important when these cattle are going to be ready to go.
Oh, very good. I appreciate that. And as always, you can reach out to us, info@agyield.com, if you've got any questions or want to visit a little bit more with any of the guys about your individual situation. A couple things to point out. We've talked about it a couple of times. USDA report will be out tomorrow at 11 o'clock Central. We will have a bonus war room at 11:10. We will talk about the numbers, give you our initial reaction. So be sure to tune in. It will also be Fun Fact Friday tomorrow morning, which is always everybody's favorite time of the week. Not sure who, we may have a surprise person doing Fun Fact Friday. We'll have to figure that out, but it's likely to be pretty good and funny. So tune in. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like or subscribe. It'll keep you up to speed on everything AgYield. And once again, we appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. We have a lot of fun doing the show and hope you enjoy it as well. Every day that the markets are open, we're streaming live on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Look forward to talking to everybody again tomorrow. Have a great day.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at AgYield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.